Laugh it up, fuzzball.
You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
Well, it's Star Wars week, isn't it? In the span of a week, we've gotten first on-ride views of the new Rise of the Resistance ride, 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, and the theatrical release of The Rise of Skywalker. So in 1 week, the Resistance is rising and the Skywalker is rising, whatever that means. We're going to go see Star Wars Thursday night. So we'll see what that has to say. Hey, whether I've railed against Star Wars, I've praised Star Wars, but ultimately I am a Star Wars fan, and we have tickets, and we're going, and we're going to hold judgment until we see the darn thing. That's just the way it goes. Remember, though, you have to review the movie you got, not the movie you wanted. But that's not really the case here, because I have no expectations going into this theater what that movie's going to be. It's whatever they've decided their corporate product is, because I don't consider J.J. Abrams a filmmaker. He does franchise tentpole merchandise things, which is odd because there's no merchandise for this movie. I went looking for Rise of Skywalker merchandise, and I couldn't find any of it. I found 2 figures, one of those $20 Black Series figures, which I'm not really into because they're too darn expensive. And the other was one of the children's line, which I don't care about either because they're way too stylized. The 3 3/4-inch figures that I've collected virtually my entire life practically no longer exist. And when they do, they're $12.99, which seems incredibly high for a figure like that. It should top out at the most $6 or $7. Even then, you're pushing it because they're really $5 figures. Because you can get a bunch of these at Five Below for $5 or less. And I think that's where we're going to find a lot of the Rise of Skywalker merchandise in about a year. Because it takes about a year for the warehouses to start clearancing out all their stuff. We're starting to see Solo stuff at Five Below. You can get the Monopoly set for $7. And I'm sure that retailed for originally $30. But when no retailers ordered it, it sits in a warehouse until they can figure out a deal. And that's really unfortunate because Star Wars merchandise has always been a big part of my life. And here I am wanting to buy it, wanting to collect it, and there's nothing to buy or collect. They've released 1 vehicle for this movie, an X-Wing, but it's $100, and I've never even seen it at the retail. I have no idea where you even get it other than an inflated eBay price. And for a vehicle that's already $100, I certainly wouldn't pay more than that. $100 for an X-Wing? That's insane. So, we'll see. I hope it's great. I want it to be great. Every time I go to the movies, every time the lights dim, I want to fall in love. I want the movie to be great. I never go in hoping that it's bad, thinking that I'm going to hate it. I just don't. I want movies to be great. That's my number one form of entertainment is movies. So, hey, fingers crossed, lightsabers crossed that it's good. I have a favor to ask of you folks. You guys out there who listen to the show are savvy people, man. I asked you guys to help me find Mark Benton, and you found him. That's astounding. So this seems trivial by nature. There's a couple of commercials that aired in the late 70s, early 80s. And I've watched a huge number of YouTube commercial compilations, hoping that it's somehow going to be stuck in the middle of one of those. But I just can't find them. I can't find them. The first one is for a grocery store. I don't know what chain it is. I want to lean towards something like Alpha Beta, some chain that's defunct, either Alpha Beta or Lucky's. It might have been Lucky's. But it shows a small child, I think it's a little boy, and we're at table level for a big holiday feast, and the kid is going from person to person looking at the food, and at the very end, he catches somebody's eye, and a woman's voice goes, "Ho ho, look who's ready to eat," and then the name of the grocery store comes up. That's probably not even enough to work on, but I can't find it. I just want to see it one more time to know that I'm not crazy. And the other one is a PSA, a public service announcement. And I've looked up tons of PSAs on YouTube. I've seen all kinds, from syphilis to forest fires. But there's one for drunk driving. I think it's drunk driving, which that should be easy to find. But it's a little boy, and he's on the ground, and he's playing with his toy cars. And he's set up a city made of blocks. And through this city of blocks, he's racing his car around. And then it wrecks. He wrecks the toy car. And you hear him pretending to be an ambulance, and he's like, and then the PSA comes up, and the guy very seriously says, "A car is not a toy." Two dumb commercials. I've seen a million commercials from my childhood. I watch these stupid commercial compilations all the time. I had no idea how nostalgic commercials would be, and yet they are. But I can't find those two. So any help you can give me would be great. If you could run on a search engine that I don't know, or a YouTube scan that I don't have access to, that would be fantastic. Just put them on the 91 Reasons page if you find them. And if you don't, that's good too, because I couldn't find them either. Okay, so Rise of the Resistance was unveiled this week in Florida. That's the new Star Wars ride at Galaxy's Edge. It's a massive, massive ride with multiple ride vehicles and systems. It is at this point, probably the most state-of-the-art ride on the planet. I think the previous one probably was the Shanghai version of Pirates of the Caribbean, and before that, Mystic Mansion. Disney keeps upping their game. It would have been, I know for years it's been Spider-Man at Universal, and then Harry Potter's Forbidden Journey. But these, or even Avatar. The Avatar has that dragon ride that's supposed to be astounding. But this Star Wars one's pretty amazing, where you are led into the Rebel base, and you board a transport ship, because you're going to maybe you're not at the Rebel base, you're at a Rebel outpost, and then you're going to board a transport ship to the Rebel base. So you're being told where the Rebel base is. You board this ride vehicle, but you're standing up, there's no seats, and there's a fully audio animatronic Mon Calamari piloting, and you can get as close as you want to him. It looks like they're right up on him. And the ship takes off from Galaxy's Edge through the use of screens and goes into the sky, and then is attacked by First Order TIE fighters. And ultimately you are pulled in by a tractor beam to a Star Destroyer. And when the ship docks, you go out the same door you came in. So it's not a switcheroo door-wise. The vehicle you're on is actually moving along a path to dock at another locale so that they can keep the ride vehicles moving. It's a very smart conveyance system to keep up with guest control. When you disembark, you're in a giant hangar bay aboard the Star Destroyer with 20 or 30 stormtroopers and live actors yelling at you to get in line. And you're a rebel traitor or a resistance traitor, whatever term they use. And you are then marched off to a detention cell where Kylo Ren and Admiral Hux look down on you and tell you that they're going to get the information from you from for the rebel base. And the amazing thing about this part, and it was real subtle, but it really sells it, because it's obviously a screen. It's a high-resolution screen, maybe the highest resolution screen I've ever seen. But the characters on the screen actually cast shadows in the room. And that just, man, does that sell it. Really impressive. Holy cow. Then there's an explosion. The door is opened by a lightsaber, I think, or some sort of explosion. The wall rips apart, and a resistance fighter, a live actor, rescues you and gets you aboard the ride vehicle, which is this Imperial transport being driven by an R5 unit. You then take a journey through the Star Destroyer, avoiding probe droids, Kylo Ren, stormtroopers that are blasting at you. You then come face to face with a pair of AT-AT walkers, and you end up on, there's two paths, and both of them end up on elevators that take them up 2 or 3 floors to the top of the AT-ATs, where you either look into the cockpit or the side of the cockpit, the front of the side, and they're reacting to you. The ship takes off, encounters Kylo Ren again. There's either real audio animatronic Kylo Rens, or their projections, but they're both done very well. There's an elevator sequence where the lightsaber comes through the ceiling and melts the metal walls. I mean, it took me a while to figure how it's done. It's very, very clever. It's a magic trick that's very well done. I won't give it away here. You end up dodging turrets and cannons that are firing outside the ship as it's being attacked by resistance fighters. They blow the wall. You can see the wall get hit by lasers. You slam into an escape pod, which drops you back down to the planet, and then you exit into an open-air resistance base. It is an amazing immersive ride. It's just stellar. I cannot wait to ride it when it opens here at Disneyland. Again, looks like to be the most state-of-the-art ride I've ever seen. Trackless, beautiful animatronics, crisp screens that are indistinguishable from real people. Most importantly for me, live actors selling it. It's not just animation, it's actual actors doing their part to sell the illusion. Let's hope they keep that up and that the actors that they hire are into it as much as they are opening week, and that you don't get a lackluster guy. Because that can't happen over time. But we'll get our fingers crossed that it's going to last. And it really is an immersive 15 to 20 minute experience. That's a hefty theme park attraction. My hat's off to everybody involved who put it together, created it, and executed it. It is top notch. That being said, the only real criticism I have is it's too bad that it's based on the new movies and not classic films. If it had been Darth Vader menacing you instead of Kylo Ren, it might have more weight to it. He's not a very imposing villain. He's prone, this is just from the movie. He's prone to temper tantrums. He's good, he's bad. You don't know what he is. Darth Vader was evil up until the last 5 minutes of his life. He was willing to sacrifice his own kid. He blew up whole planets worth of people. He tortures his own daughter. This is a bad person. He didn't get redemption until the last 10 minutes of Return of the Jedi. But, again, review the ride you got, not the ride you wanted. So when I say it's the most immersive, amazing ride ever built, that's currently now. Because for my money, I've already been on this ride. And for me, until I ride Rise of the Resistance, Star Trek The Experience at the Las Vegas Hilton remains the most immersive, amazing theme park attraction, not in a theme park, that I have ever been on. Star Trek The Experience was done analog, not digital. That film was the ride film that they used in it was actual film. It was not digital. They didn't have digital back then, not digital projectors. So it ran on actual film. So it's an analog ride, and it's still, the ride itself for Star Trek was good, not great. It was equal to Star Tours, but it was the wraparound that made Star Trek, to me, the most eye-popping, amazing attraction I've ever been on. And that includes Indiana Jones, Soarin', Radiator Springs Racers, you name it. I went to Star Trek, I went to the Las Vegas Hilton in the late 90s, and I had heard, like, this is all pre-internet. This is getting your information from Starlog and going to conventions and hearing people talk, but there wasn't a lot of preamble to this. It wasn't like it is now, where there's countdowns and already fan websites for stuff that has only been recently announced, or even hasn't been announced yet, just speculative websites. I knew there was something going in the Las Vegas Hilton that was Star Trek related. I didn't know what it was. We knew it was going to be a ride of some sort. That's all we knew. But I remember going there with my mom. Now, my mom died the day after Christmas 1996. So this was obviously prior to that. It didn't open until, I think, 98. But I went there not knowing when it was going to open, with my fingers crossed. And when I got there, I saw a bunch of construction walls. There was no ride. It said coming soon. I was, thoroughly disappointed, but not really surprised. I had heard nothing about it. So I tried to keep up on when it was opening, and when it finally did open, I made, excuse the pun, the trek to Las Vegas. I managed to get a coupon at the Burger King in Baker. There was a Burger King in Baker that had one of those racks of tourist coupons, and you get a whole stack, and you tell yourself you're going to use them all. You end up using maybe one or two or none. But I did get like a $5 off Star Trek The Experience. Oh man, was I excited. Are you kidding? I remember getting to the Hilton and being blown away by what I saw. They had a space-themed casino. They couldn't theme the casino itself to Star Trek because that was just for the experience. But they did have a space casino with slot machines that you could just pass your finger through a laser to make it spin. Like, it was really cool stuff. And they had fake windows that looked like you were in space. It was a good vibe, really fun. And then the Star Trek attraction itself was amazing. It was Star Trek The Experience with the ride being dubbed later Klingon Encounter. Now, when I went when it first opened, the ride was $35. And that's for one ride. $35 for one spin on it. And I remember choking on that number, even though I had a $5 coupon, which made it $30. Now, Rachel didn't go. We had just had a baby. We had a young infant with us. She wasn't, Rachel's never been into Star Trek. Star Trek to her is kryptonite. You put Star Trek on and she just leaves the room. It's like garlic to a vampire. She wants nothing to do with Star Trek. She is more than happy to let me look at Star Trek. I have a lot of Star Trek collector action figures and stuff. I've watched all the films. I'm right now going through Star Trek The Next Generation episode by episode to see the ones I kind of missed. But she doesn't like Star Trek at all. So I went that first time alone. And I remember paying that $30 and oh man, that's a bitter pill to swallow. $30 is a lot of money for a single attraction. But for that $30, you got to walk through the Museum of the Future, which was a timeline of the Star Trek universe up until Voyager. And they had all these ships on display. Now, you were supposed to be entering Deep Space Nine. You were at the promenade on Deep Space Nine, and they did have a replica or just their version of Quark's bar, and then a lot of gift shops. But you didn't have to see the gift shops until you exited the ride. So I just went straight on the attraction. I spent about an hour in the Museum of the Future looking at all the props on display. They had every major prop from the film, every phaser, every tricorder, every Saurian brandy bottle and all that. They even had Spock's coffin from Star Trek II and the beginning of Star Trek III. And it was very, very interesting, neat to look at. And then you rounded a corner and you were in the queue for the ride. It was a queue lined by costumes from the film, very nice costumes. I believe that's what it was. And then you got to a turnstile where they scanned your ticket and you entered the ride proper. Now, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I had no idea what the ride was. I knew it was a simulator because there wasn't enough space to have any kind of substantial dark ride. And what would you do anyways with a dark ride? It has to be a simulator. So I assumed it was like Star Tours. And I wasn't disappointed when I turned a corner and it was a virtual replica of the Star Tours entry. They had doors and tape on the floor, so you could line up in rows 1 through 10. And they herded us all in here. And there was a lady, an older lady in a Star Trek The Experience t-shirt. And she says, she gets on the mic and she goes, "Welcome to Star Trek The Experience. We're going to watch a safety video." And a video comes on these monitors. And the video's terrible. It looks like something from the 70s. Please be aware that you're about to enter a high turbulent ride vehicle. Like, oh, this is dumb. And then there's a point where pregnant women may not ride. And you see a couple, the woman's pregnant, and she decides that she shouldn't go on the ride. So the guy shrugs and lets her go and then gets on the ride. And the ride operator, the live person, starts talking about the video and she goes, "What a gentleman. Oh my God." And I thought, oh, this is terrible. I paid $30 for this. I want my money back now. This is an embarrassment. And there was that moment of, I've been had. I've been had by this company. And they put together this cheesy, because I had been to the opening day of Star Trek Adventure at Universal Studios. It was a stage show where they reenacted scenes from the film with volunteers and then edited it together as a movie using clips from, I think, Star Trek VI. But that was really cheesy. The only good part was they did a beam out live on stage using Pepper's Ghost, and everybody applauded. But ultimately, if you didn't get picked for it, it wasn't really that fun to watch. It was okay. So I had flashbacks to that when I was standing in that queue watching this older woman talk to the monitor like, this thing just opened. And she's already bored with her job, talking back to the monitors and conveying to us that we've all wasted our money. And then, folks, the TV started to go haywire, static, the lights went out, a whirlwind erupted around us, and when the lights came back on, we were in the transport room of the Enterprise. The floor had changed to the transporter pad. The room was much bigger. There was a Starfleet officer there. The sound effects kicked in, and the ride operator seemed confused. She says, "Oh my God, what happened?" And the Starfleet officer said, "Everyone remain calm. You've just been beamed aboard the Starship Enterprise, and we need your help immediately." And I'll tell you what, I have never been more surprised, shocked, and exhilarated at a theme park attraction than I was with that. I could not believe how I had been fooled, how I had been tricked, and I loved every second of it. It was astounding. They took the fake ride operator from the Hilton away, and the Next Generation crew member escorted us down a hallway and into an elevator. We got into the elevator. The elevator moved, I guess, and the door that we came in opened again, and we were on the bridge of the Enterprise. The full-size bridge of the Enterprise. It was amazing. And the best part about it, and what I've explained to people over the years, why was Star Trek The Experience so good? Because if you went when it first opened, they spared no expense, like Jurassic Park. And when you got on the bridge, there was an actor engaged with you, but the other actors, and there were at least 5 of them, they were piloting the ship. They didn't have time for you. A woman brushed past me to get to a panel as if I was in the way. And I thought, wow, that's immersive, because these people have a job to do, and we've suddenly come into their workspace. We get the main view screen comes on, and it's Commander Riker, and he's telling you that Captain Picard has vanished, and that he vanished because the Klingons have transported us from our time to their time into the future, and that one of us is Jean-Luc Picard's distant relative. And if we don't make it, Jean-Luc Picard won't exist. So there's a little Back to the Future in it, which I appreciated. But it was very clever, because it could have been anybody. It wasn't like on Star Tours where one person is singled out as the rebel spy. It could be any of us. They're never going to tell us who it is, but it's one of us. So everybody's like, well, I'm Jean-Luc Picard's descendant. I'm the guy. Well, it doesn't matter who it is. We're all in it together. The Klingons appear. They demand they're gonna kill us. It's a good day to die, and that we have to get going. So the Klingons attack. They usher us into an elevator as the Klingons attack. The elevator starts rocking back and forth and shaking. And when the door opens again, the same door, we're now on another deck of the Enterprise. You go down a long hallway to the shuttlecraft. And now it's taken 15 minutes to get to the ride portion of the attraction. And they tell us that Geordi LaForge is going to pilot this shuttlecraft with us in it through a time... No, I take it back. Geordi is in a shuttlecraft in front of us, remotely operating the one that we're in. And he's going to take us back through the time portal to our own time and set the timeline back. So you get in the shuttlecraft. You watch a safety video that's much more high-tech. It featured silver guys that look like they're for the Terminator Terminator 2 before he morphs into a person. And you get in the shuttlecraft, then they blow the hatch off, and you're sucked out into space for this amazing ride. And the ride was really cool. You got to see one of the cephalopods from one of the episodes. You battle the Klingons, and eventually, after this really fun, high-energy, dipping and soaring ride with space blasts and you name it, like the G-forces felt pretty good. It was a really amazing illusion, the ride itself. You end up going through the time portal and ending up over the Vegas Strip. So you're flying your shuttlecraft over the Vegas Strip. The Klingons have followed you through. And at one point, you're doing battle over the Vegas Strip itself, which was really cool. And the Klingons finally go, today's a good day to die. And then the Enterprise shows up over the Vegas Strip, blasts the Klingons, and saves the day. Really just amazing, really nice effects. The illusion was really sold. And then the finale of the ride was you fly past the Strip, past the Hard Rock Hotel, to the Vegas Hilton. You blast through the Vegas Hilton's ventilation shaft, and Geordi says, we're going to set you down next to the simulators you were about to board when they took you from the past. Really, really clever. And then Patrick Stewart gets on as Jean-Luc Picard and says, you've reinstated the timeline, but please don't tell anyone what you've seen here today. And at that point, the ride lands, the screens go off, and everybody's like, this is amazing. We've all had this amazing experience. It was really a lot of fun, but the attraction's not over. Because if you went that opening season, when the ride door opened, you were now in a maintenance room of the hotel. You are not on the Enterprise. The Enterprise docking bay that you went through to get to that shuttle is not there. It's a maintenance bay / looking break room looking thing. And there was a guy sweeping. He's sweeping the floor, and he looks up and he goes, "Who the hell are you? What the hell are you doing here?" And everybody goes, he goes, no, you're not supposed to be here. This is the restricted part of the hotel. And he is upset with you. So he takes you down a hallway. That's the Hilton Hotel hallway. And he goes, take that elevator back to where you're supposed to be. You get on the elevator doors close, and everybody that was on that ride is electric. We couldn't believe how much fun we had. The elevator's doors open, and now we're exiting through the gift shop, or the series of gift shops. Quark's Bar, the Promenade at Deep Space Nine, they had a t-shirt shop, a high-end collectible shop, a regular collectible shop, a photo place where you could do fun Trek photos. They had a guy signing you up for a Star Trek credit card, and if you did that, you got a 6-pack of Romulan ale. And it was so much fun. They had Klingons and Ferengi walking around and taking pictures with you. Star Trek The Experience was the most fun I've ever had at a theme park attraction. Even though, like I've said, it wasn't in a theme park. But it was so much darn fun. So, I got my $30 worth, no doubt. The next few trips I went to Vegas, I made sure to do it again because I had so much fun that I did it again and again. Eventually, they went to a $30 all-day ticket, so you could ride again and again as much as you wanted. Now, because the attraction was quite long, you couldn't, I couldn't ride it more than twice before Rachel was like, we need to go. And I totally get that, but twice was really cool. I had lunch at Quark's Bar a couple of times. It was expensive, but fun. All the dishes were Star Trek themed. All the drinks were Star Trek themed. I've got pictures somewhere of me with all the characters. But as the attraction got on in years, they started to change it. They started to dull down a bit. When you got to the bridge, there weren't as many people on the bridge. That's fine. I get that. The biggest change was they changed the ending of the attraction. Eventually, when the doors opened and you got off, it was still Hilton, an employee, but he was not angry with you. He was like, okay, folks, right this way. And you were just exiting the ride. And then you got stopped in the hallway. They had put a television monitor on the ceiling, hanging down. And you got to watch a video of a news broadcast saying that there were spaceships reported, UFOs reported over the Vegas Strip. And then they went to Nellis Air Force Base where a general says, I can neither confirm or deny the presence of alien beings, and trying to explain, in real world, what would happen if spaceships appeared over the Vegas Strip. And then you got to the elevator and you were escorted out. Not as fun as the surprise ending. Just not as fun as the surprise ending. That first initial version of Star Trek, The Experience, was astounding. Watered down, it was still amazing, but just, declining a little bit by degrees, to borrow from one of those Mouse Planet. I don't know what not Mice Age, but Mouse Planet. Kevin Yee, I don't know what I think it's the guy's name. He always says declining by degrees. But eventually, my kids got older. I got to take Luna on the attraction. Now, by this time, they had added the second attraction there, and that was the Borg invasion, Borg encounter, because it was Klingon encounter. I think it was Borg invasion. And for that attraction, they did away with the idea that you were in Vegas. Once you walked into that, you were on a Star Trek space station, and one of you had blood that could combat a Borg implant, because, by this time the Borg is now all-encompassing. We're done with Klingons, and now we're moved on to Borg. So that one was, you got to go through the station after it had been overrun with Borg. They had live-action Borg actors trying to get you. We watched the Starfleet guy get grabbed by the neck and pulled into the ceiling. That was a great effect. When the Borg advanced on us, I thought Luna was going to have a panic attack. I mean, that was so real. It was a lot of fun. And then you were escorted to basically a 3D theater like Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. And you watched a giant movie that tried to imagine you were on a spaceship or, you were on the station. It was real. I don't remember. I only went on it twice. But I do remember that it ended, you had the Borg Queen, and then it ended with the Voyager ship crashing into and destroying everything, which was pretty impressive. And that the seats had grabbers that grabbed you to try to imitate a Borg attack. Like, it was all very cool. A great addition. Plus, it was part of the $30 all-day thing, so I have no problem with that. One of my favorite memories of going there was, it was me and Luna by ourselves, and we saw that they had Ferengi, like Halloween masks, the little plastic ones with the string. And I said, we should get one of those for Austin. Austin likes this kind of weird stuff. You know what? I think I still have it here somewhere. But as we were buying it, a guy dressed as an older gray-haired Klingon walked up and looked at Luna and said, "Still playing with toys?" And Luna said, it's for my brother. And the Klingon said, lies, all lies. So we've never forgotten that. It was, the actor interaction is what sells these things. And for me was what makes these things so much fun, is that's a live person playing along with me. And I want to play along with them. And I want it to be as immersive as possible. Now, when Cedar Fair bought the Paramount Parks, that was the beginning of the end for Star Trek The Experience, because the hotel, the Hilton, which would soon be sold to Westgate, they wanted the experience out. They didn't want to renew the contract. So Cedar Fair actually operated Star Trek The Experience in its last year or so of operation. It was very sad that it was going. I was very upset that it was going. But one of the pluses to that was we were now affiliated with them. So I was able to get, for Rachel and myself, a full VIP package tour. So we got to go on both of the rides, and we got to do the nearly hour-long backstage tour where you got to sit on the bridge, hang out on the bridge as much as you wanted. They took you to the actors' areas where they put their makeup on and their break room. We got to see the projectors and the computers that ran the attraction. And we got to sign the guest book. And I'll have to admit, I was very sad doing it. It was really amazing to get to do. But I knew that day was the end for me, because I wouldn't be able to get, because it was closing in just a few months. And we weren't going to get back. This was it. So I tried to really enjoy that last, trek around the galaxy on that attraction. I have not been on Rise of the Resistance. I can't wait to ride it, but it's got big shoes to fill, because Star Trek The Experience was just amazing. And at the end, when they finally shut it down, they had an auction. They sold off all of the pieces that they could. The props all went back to Paramount, but the pieces were sold to the fans. And I know that Jason, who's a big listener of the show, got one of the exit signs, and that's pretty darn cool. I ended up with a few sweaters that said Federation of Planets on it. I didn't keep them because they were way too small for me, and I just don't collect clothing. But for a while I had them, and they were pretty cool. The trash cans, this is so silly. The trash cans ended up backstage at Knott's Berry Farm that we used for about 5 or 6 years as our trash cans. And every time I put my trash in them, I'd go, that's the trash can from Star Trek. That's for The Experience. I mean, that's silly to say, but it was fun seeing a little piece of it. Just a little piece of it. The saddest images I saw were of the giant Enterprise model in pieces on the floor at the auction house. Landmark and Gary Goddard, the company that put that together, amazing people, very talented. They created, the most immersive attraction I've ever been on. It was simply amazing. Nothing has come close. And when I have been able to put together my stuff, I have happily borrowed from the best. If you went through Trapped year 3, we did the opening fake out where it looked like you weren't going to get your money's worth because we were unprepared, but it turned out to be fake. And I'm proud to say that worked nearly every single time, and that does have some homage to Star Trek: The Experience. I can't wait to see Star Wars tomorrow night. I hope it's great. I'll try to review it, but I'll give you guys time to see it if you want to, so you don't get ruined by spoilers. I'm one of those weird guys that spoilers don't bother me. It does not detract from my enjoyment of the film, because I watch things on a writer's level. So usually I'm one step ahead anyways, because I can guess what's going to happen, unless it subverts my expectations. And Star Trek: The Experience at the Las Vegas Hilton subverted my expectations. I wish it was still here. I know you can watch it on YouTube if you want. You can watch the rides, the bar, the promenade, the closing ceremonies, and even the auction. So I'll try to post some of those links. You can check them out. Thanks for listening. I'm slowly getting better. Even this episode, I've had a coughing attack that I've had to edit out. This has been a rough couple of months. I'm trying to get back in the groove of things, but it has taken a while. My health is on the mend, thank goodness. And I was smart enough this year to get a flu shot. So I'm trying to be a better person. I'm trying to eat better. I hope you are doing the same. Around the holidays, take care of yourself. Treat yourself. Buy yourself something nice. Giving is great. And sometimes you have to give to yourself. And that may sound silly and selfish, but it is true. So get that Frappuccino if you want it. I would love a Frappuccino right now. But I'm stuck at home without a car, so. Hey, happy holidays, Merry Christmas from all your friends here at 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
I'm getting ready for a night at the opera, so I can't come to the phone right now. Or even wrong now, for that matter. Say, are you the person that got my kid in trouble? What'll it take to do the same for me? Don't answer that question. Just leave a message at the beep. Oh, and don't leave your phone number unless you're Wayne Newton. Lydia, oh, Lydia, Lydia, the tattooed lady.
Good night, future boy!